Logan Medish with AmmoLand TV, and today we're going to talk about this little guy right here. The 9mm Luger cartridge is arguably the most popular and adaptable cartridge to come out of the 20th century. To take it a step further, it might be the most popular handgun cartridge of all time. Up until very recently, the 9mm cartridge could be found literally everywhere for less than a quarter a piece. Now, they've become harder to find than an honest person in Washington. To help ease the ammo hardship, one lucky AmmoLand subscriber is going to win 5,000 rounds of Blazer Brass 9mm 115 grain full metal jacket ammo. That's right, 5,000 rounds. I'll tell you all about how you can win in a minute, but first, what do you really know about the history of this round? In 1902, Austrian arms designer George Luger created the new cartridge for DWM to complement the semi-automatic pistol that they were making that also just so happened to bear his name. Now, nothing ever happens in a vacuum, and all new creations come to be by standing on the shoulders of the things that came before them. Luger was no exception to this. He came up with the 9x19mm cartridge by altering his previous 7.65 by 21mm cartridge that was introduced in 1898. Now that cartridge owed its development to an even earlier design, the 7.65 by 25mm Borchardt, which was developed by Hugo Borchardt for the use in his C93 semi-automatic pistol. Like every proud parent of an ugly child, Hugo thought that his gun was great. Unfortunately, anyone not related to him felt otherwise and saw it for the ugly kid that it was. Sales languished and the gun sat as surplus for about 20 years. Borchardt's pistol and cartridge were reworked by Luger to create the first version of the pistol that would bear his name in the 7.65 by 21mm cartridge, but the Germans were anxious to adopt a larger caliber sidearm. Luger set to work developing a new cartridge and redesigning his pistol to match it. He removed the bottleneck shape from the cartridge and created a tapered, rimless design. The result was the 9x19mm Parabellum, or the 9x19mm Luger, 9mm Luger, 9mm Parabellum, 9mm NATO, or what most of us just call simply the 9mm. The cartridge was submitted for testing to the British Small Arms Committee in 1902 and to the U.S. for tests at Springfield Armory in Massachusetts in 1903. The following year, an additional 50 pistols and 25,000 rounds of 9mm ammo were sent to Springfield for more serious testing. The German Navy adopted the new cartridge in 1904, and the German Army followed suit 4 years later in 1908. That date provided the name most often associated with the adopted pistol, the Luger P08. Unlike the Germans, the United States would ultimately choose the 45 ACP cartridge in March 1911 and ignited a caliber war that still rages today. Before getting too far into the 20th century, we have to address the 19th century elephant in the room, the Hague Convention of 1899. This meeting of the minds resulted in a treaty with three major declarations, the final one stating that signatory nations agreed to a, quote, prohibition of the use of bullets which can easily expand or change their form inside the human body, such as bullets with a hard covering which does not completely cover the core or containing indentations. In plain terms, this was meant to prohibit the use of soft-point bullets which had a partial metal jacket and an exposed soft tip, as well as rounds with incisions in the tip to aid in expansion. The latter is, of course, a distant cousin to the modern hollow-point round. This prohibition would limit signatory states to ball ammo. Countries that participated in the convention agreed to these declarations and signed on the dotted line, with one big exception. The United States signed part, but not all, of the document. Most notably, we did not sign the portion that limited the type of ammo that could be used. So, no, the US was not bound to use ball ammo by the Hague Convention, simply because we didn't sign that part of it. Even if we had, it wouldn't have mattered much anyway, given that Germany signed the declaration that forbid the use of projectiles whose sole purpose was to spread asphyxiating poison gas, but they made quick use of such weapons in World War I. Alright, with that out of the way, we're moving on back into the 20th century. After World War I, the caliber's popularity picked up steam with the widespread development of the machine pistol or submachine gun, most of which were chambered in 9mm. Both semi-automatic pistols and submachine guns chambered for 9mm parabellum were introduced in Belgium, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, Finland, Poland, Sweden, and Switzerland, all before World War II. During World War II, Germany attempted to conserve lead by introducing rounds with iron cores encased in lead. They were identified by a black jacket to begin with, but by 1944 had become the standard, so the colored jacket was discontinued. At the same time, the Germans also developed a 150-grain full metal jacket bullet with subsonic properties for use in silenced weapons. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known simply as NATO, was formed in 1949. In 1955, they adopted the 9x19mm cartridge as its official sidearm cartridge. This made sense as many of the member nations were already fielding sidearms chambered for that round. In the coming decades, the 9mm would steadily increase its foothold in the global ammo market. The United States military adopted the Beretta M9 semi-automatic pistol chambered in 9mm in 1985, ending the 45 ACP's reign after 74 years. At the same time, law enforcement firearms underwent a dramatic shift away from revolvers in .38 Special or .357 Magnum to semi-automatic pistols. A very similar trend was seen in the civilian handgun market. The prevalence of military, law enforcement, and civilian preference for the cartridge has cemented its place in ammunition history. By 2013, the 9mm Luger accounted for 21.4% of the entire world cartridge market. 7 years later, here in 2020, the 9mm is more popular than ever before, but because of recent developments, they've become harder and harder to find on physical shelves and in digital shopping carts. That's why AmmoLand is coming full circle to the beginning of this history lesson. Now that you know all about the 9mm Luger's history and development, it means that you'll appreciate it all the more if you're the lucky AmmoLand subscriber who has chosen to win 5,000 rounds of Blazer Brass 9mm 115 grain full metal jacket ammo. 5,000 rounds for free sounds pretty darn good to me. So, what are you waiting for? Enter the contest now. Thanks for watching, and best of luck.